Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the 1997 cult classic film, I Know What You Did Last Summer. So this is based on the book of the same name from the 70s, I believe. And the screenwriter for Scream is the same screenwriter for this, whose name I don't remember. And he modernized the book's plot to make it an 80s slasher film kind of a thing, taking place in the 90s. So we start out in 96 and then jump to 98. So July 4th, 96. A year later, I Know What You Did Last Summer, July 4th, 97. And then a year later, not technical July 4th, but then Julie's in school, so it has to be past. So it has to be full semester. So August, let's say, 98. And so we have Jennifer Love Hewitt as a character of Julie. We have Freddie Prinze Jr. as a character of Ray. Sarah Michelle Gellar as the character of Helen. Helen Shivers. You have Ryan Felipe, the 90s specimen that he is, playing the character of Barry Cox. And so, four high school friends, they're together. You know, Helen is the Southport, North Carolina? Can't remember the town name. It takes place in North Carolina. It's a fishing town. She's the queen, the pageant winner of that particular July 4th pageantry. And so, the friends go to celebrate at the beach, drunk. Freddie is the only one Freddie's character of Ray is the only one who's not intoxicated. So he's driving, but then Ryan's character is just being obnoxious and jumping out the moonroof. And so then, distracting the bottle of liquor falls on Freddie, and then like all hell breaks loose. They inadvertently hit somebody. So then the question is, they have their whole lives in front of them. What do they do? Because if they call the cops, then they all are, can't continue on with their future and things of that nature. So what do they do? So they decide upon disposing the body in the ocean, and the crabs eat them and stuff. So it's a very interesting how your life can change in a night by one simple decision after an accident. What happens next? But then the question is, a year later, when Julie gets a creepy note and, other weird things start to happen, is the body actually dead? Julie thinks that she saw in the news that this particular guy who was found is the person that they inadvertently hit. But the face was so mangled, so they couldn't tell. And then like stuff starts to happen, and they're starting to interrogate that guy's sister and stuff, right? Johnny Galecki is in this. What's his character's name? Harry. He's the first victim of this fisherman character. But then we get to know who the fisherman character is. Then we get actual backstory of why the fisherman character is the fisherman character, Ben Harris. Why is Ben Harris, now murdering all of these teens who are now college kids? Well, he's trying to act revenge for his daughter's death, because his daughter died a drunk driving accident with her boyfriend behind the wheel. And why did he get to survive and she didn't? And the boyfriend is the guy that they think they killed, but they didn't kill him. And the daughter's father, Ben Harris, was the one who was out to get the boyfriend, and that's why he happened to be on the road that night. So it wasn't the guy that thought was being what's the term? It was assumed that the girlfriend's boyfriend had unalived himself due to a note that the sister found, but the note was actually the same interrogating, threatening note that Julie had gotten from the fisherman, from Ben Harris, framing and then plotting the actual death of that character. So that's why Ben Harris was on the road that night, because he was out to seek revenge, and he, wound up then destroying the boyfriend's life. But then he got hit by the car, and then they tried to cover it up. But they didn't cover it up well enough because he still survived. So then at the end of the film, after, Ryan's character is taken off via the balcony scene, which has been memed so many times within regards to other franchises. And what's great about it is you have a Scream balcony scene, and you have, I Know What You Did Last Summer balcony scene. And it's neat to see the two properties have very similar jumpy kind of plot development because it's the same screenwriter. So I like it. I like that it's very comparative in that sense. What I also like, what I'm specifically referencing in Scream 4, the screenwriter did 1, 2, and 4. Yes, in Saw 4, there's a balcony scene in a barn which is so similar to the balcony scene in I Know What You Did Last Summer. So it's the same screenwriter doing the same exact trick over and over again, and then you turn the corner and the body's gone. Where'd the body go? It's the same trick, but it's just so fun. It's familiar. It's like a warm blanket. I don't know how else to explain it. Sometimes you watch a horror property that you've been a fan of since you were a child, and you just find comfort in knowing what happens next. You find comfort in the horns and the brass instruments playing in the background, knowing that the scary is going to come through, and you know it, and it's just the stupid kids did stupid things, and these are the consequences of their actions, and it's an interesting perspective as an adult watching something you watched when you were in your 20s, in your teens, in your 10s. It's very different because it just feels nostalgic at this point. You watch these 90s films and you still find entertainment in them because it's like a warm hug. It's just familiar and it's safe, even though it's not safe because it's a horror film. It's what's fun about it, because you laugh at it. You're like, this is not supposed to be something to be laughing at, and yet I'm laughing at it. And that's the joys of life, the duality of life. You find humor in the darkness. You find light in the dark. What we know is a drop. What we don't know is an ocean. Wonderful. Continuing on. The fisherman is then having the final battle at the end. Helen is now murdered. Barry's character is now murdered. Where their bodies go, mysteriously vanished. It's now Ray and Julie against Ben, right? Ben Harris, the fisherman, on his boat. And so what happens, right? So there's the whole battle, and then he winds up getting his arm stuck, his fish hook arm stuck in a rope, and he gets taken up, and the arm gets sliced, and he winds up in the ocean, and he's not found. A year later, Julie gets this threatening message again. I still know what you did last summer, at her dorm's shower. And so she goes into the dorm's shower. It's all steamy, and then somebody breaks through the glass, and then on to the next film. I never read the book. I have no comparison. I know that there's 3 films in the franchise plus a TV spin-off series. Not even a spin-off. It's just a reboot. It's a remake. It's not even a reboot. It's a remake. What's the difference between a reboot and a remake? Reboot is when you try to revive some energy into the franchise that's already established. Remake is when you're redoing everything from the start. So a remake of this franchise based on the book. So I didn't read the book. I can't compare the first 3 films to the TV series, which I'm pretty sure has no relevance or comparison to the shows, because it's different universes from what I've read, from what I understand. Both are based on the book, but they have nothing to do with each other. 2 separate universes based on the same book, which I'm excited about. But I know a lot of people did not like the TV series, which is just like 10 episodes on Amazon Prime. Because how dare they redo a movie franchise from my youth, which is exactly what I said of how nostalgic and how warm, lovely hug it feels when you watch these things. But I don't think it has to do with the movies. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure it has nothing to do with the films, that it's just another iteration based on the book. And I think, I could be mistaken, I think James Wan is a producer, and James Wan is awesome, so I'm very excited. We're going to continue on with this marathon. We're going to watch the second and third film. We're going to see what happens. I've never seen the second and third film. I've only watched the first film at sleepovers when I was a kid. Never actively sat down to watch it. I knew it involved July 4th. I knew it involved the 4 main characters, or who are still having incredible careers. I have always been obsessed with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar, specifically because of the Scooby-Doo films that they play Daphne and Velma. Whew! Daphne and Fred, excuse me. And they are one of the rare Hollywood it couples that have stayed married all of these decades later. It's very rare. It doesn't happen. Most of the time, celebrities get together and they have their fluffy romance, and then paparazzi gets involved and then they break up. But this particular couple has withstood the test of time, and it's very cool. It's very cool. It's very rare. They're awesome humans in general. Freddie Prinze Jr. is the voice of Kanan in Star Wars Rebels, who's just an iconic character. So it's just cool seeing other projects that people are involved in. It's cool knowing that people were involved in other projects. Wonderful first film in a franchise, which I have not seen the rest of, so this will be my first viewing for other things. Let's see what happens. I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1997 cult classic film. On to the next review. Well.